Hi everybody and welcome back to another Legends of Runeterra video. Yeah, cool and interesting here. Freljord cards coming today. We get Lissandra. I'm actually really excited to see Lissandra and what she's all about. She's one of my favorite champions from Freljord. Just kind of a cool thematic. And yeah, I'm excited here. I haven't seen her yet, so this is going to be initial impressions. It may take me a second to actually form an opinion about her, but let's go ahead and see what she is and what her followers are like, what her archetype's going to be, and let's go.
I will bury the world in ice.
Sandra keeps watch. She's part of the Watchers or something. All right, 3 costs from Freljord. So do we have any other 3 costs from Freljord? I don't think that we do. Ash and Braum are 4. Braum used to be 3. Sejuani is 6, Tryndamere 8, Trundle 5. So this is the first 3 costs that we have, barring Braum, of course, who used to be 3. And hopefully this will clear up just a little bit here. It's kind of pixelated. Twitter videos always start out pixelated for some reason. All right, Lissandra, she's tough from the Freljord. Very interesting. When I'm summoned a Frozen Thrall. Level up, you've summoned 2+ allies that cost 8+. When I level up, create a Watcher in hand. You've summoned 2+ allies that cost 8 or more. When I level up, create a Watcher in hand. All right, this is interesting. I wonder if we're going. So this to me is seeming like a mana ramp champion as well, which is very common for Freljord, I think. Both Tryndamere and Anivia are very mana ramp dependent champions. And it looks like Lissandra might be as well, unless we have other ways being introduced to Freljord that are going to allow us to cheat out units a little bit earlier. This is interesting, and I kind of doubt they'll do that, but we'll go ahead and see. But I doubt they'll do that because it's already got mana ramp. So if you included mana ramp with like an extra way to cheat out units, I think that'd be way too overpowered. So she seems like she's going to be a mana ramp champion.
Looms on the horizon.
We'll see what a Frozen Thrall is as well. So it looks like we've got landmarks here with Countdown again. And some more synergy with Talia. We'll have to go back through Mobalytics at the end of this as well to look at what these cards do. Okay, Ice Shards deal 1 to everything. Very similar to, like, what is it, Whirling Death or whatever. Alright. Draklorn Inquisitor. When I'm summoned, summon a Frozen Thrall. Round end, if the countdown at any of your frozen monsters is 4 or less, advance them to 0. Interesting. Alright, so we are going to have some frozen monsters, which I think are going to be landmarks with countdowns. And then this guy, if any of them are at 4 or less, we'll advance them down to 0, and I guess they'll come out of their stasis or whatever that is. So kind of interesting here. His stat line is okay. 4/5 health is generally a little bit better. He's kind of a bulky unit.
Completely and without question.
Alright, so there he advanced to 0. Alright, and here are the 8 cost units.
Secrets hidden by frost. Ages pass, but I am eternal.
Level up animation's okay. Oh, I should have paused it again, I guess.
But I...
Okay, so he's still tough. Your Nexus is tough. That's new. Okay. So this is almost like a straight up counter to leveled up Talia. Your Nexus is tough. When I'm summoned, summon a Frozen Thrall. So anyone and like Ezreal for that matter. So this is like a counter to Ezreal leveled up if you can get her to level up. When I'm summoned, summon a Frozen Thrall again. So same thing. Round start, create a fleeting 0 cost Ice Shard in hand, and that was the one that was dealing 1 damage to everything. Oh, Entomb. Alright, fast speed, 5 cost spell. So this can be used during combat. Obliterate a unit and summon Anne. Why is it Anne? They need to get their articles right. And summon a frozen tomb in its place. All right, and this is everything. So the hourglass or whatever it's called from Shurima is only on allied units. This is on all units, right? So you can use it on your opponent as well. However, on the backside here, if you use it on your opponent, it also puts a frozen tomb, whatever that does.
All things succumb to the cold.
So it looks like they're just locked in place for a couple of rounds.
Frost gathers.
All right, so there's Ice Shard.
I am inevitable. Shatter.
All right, and there's the Watcher. 17 cost. I cost 0 if you summon 4+ allies that cost 8+ this game. Attack, obliterate the enemy deck.
At last they awaken.
And so it's just basically, you win.
The Frostborn rule the Freljord.
You win with the Watcher. Interesting. Definitely, she introduces a lot of interesting mechanics here. For sure. Like tough on your Nexus. We've never seen that before. More countdown landmarks. So again, we get some Talia synergy here. The Watcher obliterating the deck is fairly, I guess, new. Now it does kind of like the same thing that Maokai would do, where you mill the deck, but this one just obliterates it. So on the next attack, you just win. Which, I mean, isn't completely game ending because the enemy still has a chance to finish off the game after you obliterate their deck, right? Use it just before the next round. So, kind of interesting. She is definitely a leveled up. Lissandra is definitely a counter to Ezreal. Is definitely a counter to leveled up Talia. Any sort of burn deck she counters. Late game. So, I mean, the problem with burn and aggro decks in general is that they're fast early game, and so she's not going to be able to counter them like specifically early on in the game. But if you get the late game, then it will be hard for them to finish you off. But it kind of depends on how easy it is to level up those, or to get those ice thralls out and to level up Lissandra. Yeah, kind of interesting. Let's go ahead and see if we've got Mobalytics ready to go. Okay, so here we are in Mobalytics. Yeah, interesting here. Let's go ahead and see if we get any other cards to look at. So let's go ahead and look at Lissandra again. When I'm summoned a Frozen Thrall. Frozen Thrall should be over here somewhere. So here's the Frozen Thrall, a landmark. So the countdown is 8. It's a 1 cost. So this is main deckable, it looks like. It's a 1 cost. You can put it down on turn 1, so that at the very least you get it down on turn 8. Which is interesting. It comes out as a Frostguard Thrall here, is an 8/8 with Overwhelm, and as we saw in the video, there's going to be ways to cheat it out just a little bit earlier. All right, and the reason why this works well with Ramp is that it's a landmark with countdown, and so it kind of operates, separately outside of the ramp, which is why you can kind of include these cheat cards without necessarily needing to screw up ramp as it is as an archetype and make Freljord completely overpowered, which is good. All right, so she summons one on her own on turn 3. You summon 2+ allies that cost 8 or more. When I level up, create a Watcher in hand. So you create the Watcher in hand, right? So this is kind of a just filling up your hand, if I'm being honest. I cost 0 if you summon 4-cost allies that cost 8+ or more this game. So there's a condition. So it's just kind of dead weight in your hand until you can either, get these Frozen Thralls out, turning them into Frostguard Thralls, or if you've got a whole bunch of 8+ cost units in your deck like Tryndamere, or I don't know, the Bale Watchers or whatever their names are. Anyway, I think in general she is going to be fairly difficult to level up simply because we have to wait until we can get those frozen thralls out or play 8+ cost units, right? So even if we put her out on turn 3, we're going to have to wait probably 5 turns, maybe 6, in order to level her up, which is a long time for her to stay on the board. She's not like an engine or anything, so she's just kind of taking up space. She does summon a frozen thrall, but like her stat line is fairly weak. Got a fairly understanded stat line for a 3 cost unit, and also her frozen thrall, or yeah, frozen thrall isn't really doing a whole lot. By the way, I'm getting like White Witch vibes from her and her level up animation. It's like the Chronicles of Narnia. She's got all those frozen guys in her castle. Yeah, so at the moment I kind of feel like she's a little bit underpowered, if I'm being honest. Yeah, we'll see what happens, but maybe she works really well with Talia, and we see now kind of more synergy with things like Promising Future. So that can be a fast level up for Lissandra. All right, Entomb, obliterate a unit and summon a frozen tomb in its place. Frozen tomb, a landmark. Countdown is 2. You summon an exact copy of the obliterated unit I replace. So very similar to the stasis spell. It costs 5 because you can use it on opponents as well, and they're forced basically to keep their unit in it until they can, get them out and actually start using them again. Which is fairly powerful if you're trying to finish off the game in the next couple of rounds, I think. Again, it's fast speed spell, so this can be interacted with during combat, which is fairly important. It costs 3 more than I'll get this right eventually. Ancient Hourglass. So, all right, we'll just come down here and look at the cards. Ice Shard, deal 1 to everything, so very similar to that Katarina card. This is a fast speed spell you can use during combat. Lissandra has Tough, which is why this works with her. So this is potential synergy with like Vladimir, more synergy that Freljord offers for self-harm archetypes, for Scar Grounds, things like that. All right, this Draklorn Inquisitor is basically the enabler for this deck archetype. So when I'm summoned, summon a frozen thrall. So he's summoning a frozen thrall himself. At the round end, if the countdown of any of your frozen thralls is 4 or fewer, advance them to 0. See how I did that? 4 or fewer. There's a grammar lesson for everybody. So Draklorn Inquisitor. How good is this going to be? I think it's going to have to be an auto include in this deck, if I'm being honest. This is a card you're going to have to include 3 of in the deck if you want it to work properly. Because this ability to get these frozen thralls out faster is going to be paramount to leveling up Lissandra earlier than she should. And it's going to allow you to get units on your board. I think up until this point, it depends on how easy it is to fill up your board with frozen thralls, because you have to understand as well, like there's a certain point you don't want any more of them because they're just taking up space on your board. They're not able to block. We can't put out the Draklorn Inquisitor until turn 5, so we don't really want a whole lot of these frozen thralls out there. You want at least 2 so that you can level up Lissandra. Oh, and also we need to note she doesn't need to be on the board to level up either, so we just have to summon the 8 cost units. So but yeah, we want to level up Lissandra, I think, all at once, and so you want at least 2 frozen thralls out that the Draklorn Inquisitor can potentially get to come out as the Frostguard thrall. But more than that is kind of like, it's getting a little bit scary for, you don't have any blockers. And Lissandra, you don't get really value out of the Watcher either until you get 4 allies that cost 8 more. So I don't know. We'll see how this works. It does seem like it could get a little bit crowded. We probably will want to include a lot of healing in this deck. So like the Kindly Tavern Keeper and the Catalyst of Aeon. So anyway, that seems like something that we would want. Let's look at Blighted Ravine here. We didn't really see this in the video, I think. So landmark, 4 costs. When I'm summoned, heal your Nexus 4. So there's a heal right off the bat, just as I was talking about it. Countdown 1, deal 2 to everything. Hmm. That's interesting. So this deals 2 to everything. That includes nexuses. So this is actually kind of a low-key Swain level up as well. Very interesting. This is actually a super cool card. I think anyway. I really like this type of archetype. I like the Ember Maiden. I like all of these kind of self-harm things, but this one also gives you healing. So we heal ourselves net 2, right? Because then we're damaging everything 2 at the end of the round. So, or at the beginning of the next round. So kind of fun. This could be just an automatic level up for Swain, because he's dealing 2 to everything. So you're minimum getting 4 damage on your Nexus and on the enemy Nexus, as well as any units that are going to be out. So pretty cool. All right, a 1-cost burst speed spell, 3 Sisters. Create a fleeting flash freeze, Fury of the North, or Entomb in hand. All right, so the 3 Sisters must be Ash, Sejuani, and Lissandra. So we have, that's interesting. Yeah, the arrow, axes, and the Watcher symbol. Interesting. A fleeting. So we pay, so basically what this is giving us is a 1 extra cost to each of these 3 spells. So, you know, like a 4-cost Flash Freeze, a 5-cost Fury of the North, or I don't know how much Entomb is. Entomb, oh yeah, 6-cost Entomb. So, interesting. Create a fleeting flash freeze, Fury of the North, or Entomb in hand. You know, this is really kind of hard to evaluate. I think it's okay. Um, is it going to be auto included in every deck? I'm not sure. It's interesting. It's very like flexible in how you can use it, which is cool. So maybe that by itself would merit it being inside a deck, but making these, you know, spells cost 1 extra, I don't know if that's actually super good. Maybe like in a Fizz deck this could work. Just because we're getting 2 spells to help level up Fizz. And 2 of them are burst speed as well, so it could help Fizz as well, stay alive, things like that. So this could work in a Fizz deck. All right, Cold Resistance. Last card here, 5-cost burst speed spell. Get an empty mana gem and grant an ally +0/+2. So very similar stat line to Catalyst of Aeons. So we are getting an empty. So we're essentially giving mana ramp. So what would be an equivalent card to mana ramp? Wording Stones, which is 3 costs, right? So on its own, um, this is actually a fairly, so the 5 costs I think is actually pretty standard here. It's not overpriced. You get a mana gem. So Wording Stones cost 3, and then say Sunblessed Vigor, I think is what it's called, from Targon, grants 2, right? That's a 2-cost spell. So 5 costs in total. We get it all at once. Um, it just kind of combines the two, I guess. I don't know if you would include this over those cards though. It's interesting for sure. We get more mana ramp and more like variability in the way that we can play mana, so that's kind of cool. Anyway, very interesting archetype that we have here. It looks like introducing more countdown landmarks, which is cool. Yeah, I think Blighted Ravine is actually the most interesting card here for me. Just as a card for potentially deck building and trying out. It seems pretty cool. When I'm summoned, heal your Nexus 4. This actually could potentially work in like a Soraka deck as well. Just because we're healing and then damaging all of our units. So if we have like Star Springs out as well, we could, you know, heal a lot. And anyway, seems kind of interesting. I'm kind of split on Lissandra and how good she's going to be. If she can like efficiently level up, if we can create a deck that allows us to have like a, I don't, this is definitely going to have to be messed around with to get, I think, the right proportions of mana ramp, these frozen thralls, and also units and healing, so that we can, you know, manage to stay alive, and then also get these frozen thralls to become Frostguard thralls. I don't know. It seems like this is going to be a very meticulous deck that we're going to have to build, and I think there is an optimized version that someone's going to have to figure out. But like as it is, I don't think she's super powerful. That's just my initial thoughts. Not looking super powerful. Um, but there are a lot of archetypes that she could potentially fit into as well. So there's going to be a lot of experimentation. That's basically all I have to say about it. It seemed a little bit jumbled, but like I said, I haven't looked at the cards. I don't really, and it's really hard to evaluate this just because all right, so like compared to the last expansion, we'll say the first part of Targon, right? We had a lot of vanilla-like cards that were released. We had Nightfall, we had Daybreak, we had Support. What else did we have? The most interesting thing really that we got was at the end, which are Aurelion Soul, right? With the celestial cards. And now in this expansion, already we have a lot of new mechanics that are being introduced, a lot of different types of keywords and things that we didn't get in that expansion that just allow a whole bunch of like testing. And I think that with all of these archetypes that we have, there's going to be a very optimized version, but it's going to take a long time to get there. Whereas with like the Nightfall, we basically had the whole Nightfall package, everything that we needed. Same thing with Daybreak Leona. Very straightforward. It was like the deck was constructed for you. This one is like completely opposite. With the new landmark archetype in Talia, we've got now this Frozen Thrall archetype with Lissandra. I will say Jarvan and Renekton are fairly straightforward, but there are still a lot of decks that they can fit into, and I think there's going to be an optimized version of those decks as well. But so far, I'm excited about this. It does seem challenging. I'm definitely up for the challenge though. So hopefully this was interesting to you guys and not a whole bunch of a ramble. But anyway, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, and we will see you tomorrow. Thanks.